Here at the Fort Bend County District Attorney's Office, we are committed to our duty to preserve and protect the integrity of our government. To that end, our Public Integrity Division has uncovered some fraudulent activity involving funds that were established pursuant to the CARES Act to provide assistance to persons in need of rental assistance and for small businesses. These crimes are particularly egregious and disturbing because these funds were established to protect those who are desperately in need of shelter and assistance during this pandemic. This money was set aside to help businesses maintain and their businesses during this time of need, during this pandemic. So, because it involves tax dollars, we're all victims. And I will ask Chief Therese Booth, who's the Chief of our Public Integrity Division, to provide further details. Thank you.
Good morning. In April of 2020, Fort Bend County received $134.3 million in federal funds under the CARES Act. That's the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. These were funds that were designed to assist with the economic fallout of COVID-19, and Fort Bend County designated a portion of those funds to go towards rental assistance, and another portion went towards a small business emergency assistance grant program. In late December of this past year, a temporary employee who was hired to assist with the administration of the rental assistance program noticed that a relative's name was on a list of recipients. She contacted that relative and determined that the relative had never applied for rental assistance. She alerted the Fort Bend County Social Services staff who was administering that program, and they pulled all of the files for that particular landlord. That landlord was One Point Investments Limited Liability Corporation. They pulled the files of several applications that had been made on behalf of One Point, and they noticed several irregularities in the applications. The Fort Bend County Auditor, Ed Sturdivant, at that point contacted the District Attorney's Office to report the alleged fraud, and the Public Integrity Division was assigned the investigation of it. It was determined that between July and October of 2020, One Point Investments, LLC, had submitted multiple requests for rental assistance using fraudulent apartment numbers. The applications were made using the names of real people. They were people that had at one point been renters of the company, but they never applied for assistance. So their driver's licenses were being submitted from old files. They no longer lived at these residences. The leases that had been attached along with those applications were clearly forged. And one application was made by the landlords in the name of a legitimate renter who the landlords were actually suing to evict from her residence, even though they were receiving almost double the rent amount under an application that they had made in her name. It was also determined that other businesses owned and registered to the landlords, who are identified as Roger Curian and Matthew John, made application for and received grants under the Small Business Emergency Assistance Grant Program from Fort Bend County. And the paperwork that had been submitted with those applications included multiple fraudulent documents. Records confirmed that Matthew John received $37,958 in CARES Act proceeds. Roger Curian received $151,820. That's a total between the two of them of $189,778. On Monday, this past Monday, February 8th, The grand jury of the 240th District Court of Fort Bend County indicted Roger Curian on the following charges: tampering with a governmental record, a state jail felony; 3 cases of forgery of a governmental record, those are third-degree felonies; tampering with a witness, a third-degree felony; tampering with a governmental record, a state jail felony; and theft of more than $30,000 but less than $150,000. That's a third-degree felony. But because this crime, this theft, was committed under an act of an emergency declaration due to COVID, it is increased to a second-degree felony. His bonds total $350,000. The grand jury also indicted Matthew John for the following offenses: tampering with a governmental record, forgery of a governmental record, and the same theft of more than $30,000 but less than $150,000, which was enhanced due to the emergency status. His bonds total $55,000. These cases could not have been worked as quickly as they were without the complete cooperation of the Fort Bend County Auditor's Office. Their staff assisted us at every stage of this investigation. And 2 staff members from the Public Integrity Division with our office worked very long hours reviewing bank records, out on the road determining whether residences actually existed or not, and whether people existed or not. And that would be fraud analyst Betty Chi and investigator Yvette Kelly. And I want to thank them for their hard work. Future allegations of fraud will be handled by the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office. And Detective Jason Bell is here. He's already handling some allegations that have come up since we started working these particular cases. These crimes are not victimless crimes. They involve money, but they are not victimless. They divert money that's designated to assist those residents and businesses in our county here in Fort Bend that are suffering from severe financial distress due to the pandemic. Anyone considering or attempting similar schemes to improperly or illegally obtain CARES Act funds from Fort Bend County should know that the Fort Bend County District Attorney and his office will aggressively prosecute these offenses to the fullest extent of the law. Information concerning CARES Act fraud should be reported to a hotline that has been established at 281-63-FRAUD, F-R-A-U-D, or 281-633-7283, or you can email to COVID, COVID.fraud, F-R-A-U-D, at fortbendcountytx.gov.
Thank you, Therese. I'd just like to emphasize that, we're all trying to survive during this pandemic. And the least thing that we need is for our public funds set aside to help people right now to be stolen. And so if you have any information leading or suggesting that there may have been some fraudulent activity involving CARES Act money, please let us know. From this point forward, the Sheriff's Department will be entertaining and leading this investigation. We are accompanied today by our newly elected him to the podium to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. This is something we're taking very seriously. It's going to be a priority to my office to look into this. Like our DA said, Brian Middleton says, these funds are set aside to help people during this pandemic. And to those who's taking advantage of that, or doubly victimizing these people who need the help, we're here. We're here to prosecute and to arrest and to investigate. So I just want everyone to know this is a major priority for the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office, working alongside the DA's office. Thank you.
So at this time, we'll entertain any questions that you may have.
Can you explain the circumstances how the first case was detected? You mentioned about an employee. The employee was instrumental in finding it, the temporary employee.
Okay, I will ask Chief Booth to explain those details.
So the employee who detected it or saw something suspicious was a part-time employee who had been hired to assist social services, who was the entity within the county who was actually administering the rental assistance program underneath the auditor's office. So she noticed on a list of phone numbers that she was confirming that a relative's name was on there. And she quickly called that relative and said, what's up? Why are you on the list? And she was told, I've never applied. Never applied. So she then notified one of her supervisors within social services, who pulled all of the applications that they had received for that landlord. And when they laid things out together, they could see that the leases all looked exactly the same. The signatures were pretty much exactly the same. The terms of the leases were all exactly the same. And then when they began to look at the addresses, one of the things we did was checked the addresses that were listed on the applications, and the unit numbers don't exist.
How many such fraudulent applications have made by this?
Do we have a number?
About 20 in total.
About 20 in total. Those were rental applications. There were additional applications that were made for the small businesses.
They are different, or are they?
They are part of the CARES Act package, so the funding is the same.
The two people who are charged.
Yes.
Do they belong to one point, or are they separate?
So One Point is a corporation that's owned by both of them. There is fraud that was perpetrated by each of them individually.
So they, in addition to rental fraud, they take these small businesses.
Correct. That is correct.
Do you know what the dollar amount was for the rental fraud that they were accused of trying to steal?
89
You go ahead.
$89,000 were paid out to 3 companies owned separately or jointly by these 3 individuals. $100,000 even were paid out to 6 companies for the SBA portion.
Is that money recoverable? Were you able to seize it or freeze the account, something like that?
When we began working this case, we didn't have account information, so we could not seize it. I fully expect that we will be requiring restitution as part of any resolution of these cases. In addition, the auditor's office has requested and received approval to do a forensic audit of the entire program. So they will be looking back at how things were handled and making sure that everything that got paid out was actually to a legitimate entity in person.
That is the big kickback that was hired last week, right?
The what?
Commissioner's Court approved
There's a firm that was,
for this purpose.
that is correct.
There's a new program that starts Monday.
Yes.
$23 million for rental assistance.
Correct. That's one of the,
What's been done so that way this doesn't happen again?
that's one of the reasons we wanted to let the community know about the cases, and one of the reasons we worked as hard as we did to finish the investigation was because we knew additional funding was coming up. We wanted to stop any further criminal activity if we could. The auditor's office is the entity that actually handles the administration of approving applications for rental assistance and the small business, right now for rental assistance coming up. They have, I believe, redesigned the application process. They have outsourced and insourced so that they can kind of keep control over how things are being handled. So social services is no longer involved with handling that, the rental assistance. There's actually a firm that will be doing that in conjunction with the auditor's office.
What's your message to anyone that might be thinking, I'm going to do this, I'm still going to try and do this?
We're coming after you. We're coming after you, and we're coming hard because this is not just a money game. This actually hurts people. One of the reasons we jumped as hard as we did on this was because we knew someone was about to be evicted, and that should not be happening. That should not be happening, and that's directly at the hands of our two defendants in these cases.
Besides these cases, do you have right now on the loop another ones that you are looking for?
There are some other reports that have been received, and they are being looked at, and the sheriff's office is handling that. Would you like to speak? No. Pardon me?
Are they related to rental assistance or business assistance or both?
They were related to rental. And the hotline is in place so that anyone who suspects or knows of any other fraud can make a direct report.
What is going to be next now that you have charges against these persons? What is next on this investigation?
We will get a court date to appear, and those two cases will be, they'll begin their trek through the justice system.
Okay.
They both made bond yesterday.
In case of this, they are going to find good in this case. What is just the punishment for them?
Well, that is something that will be discussed. We always keep our ears open. Any resolution is done after much discussion and listening to what the defense has to present to the district attorney's office. But I would hope that we would be looking for full restitution by each of them, and I'm also hopeful that at some point we can get restitution to this county for the forensic audit that we are having to pay for.
Just come to my mind a big window. I don't know. This happens to your county right now, but do you consider another counties like Harris, for example?
Yes.
Could be maybe facing the same problem? It is just a big call to them. Hey, put the eye right here. Maybe you are facing the same system. What do you think?
I think that any time there are large amounts of funds that are made available to assist citizens, I have found that there is typically someone who comes to take advantage of that improperly. And I have reason to believe that these two defendants today also had some involvement with Harris County. So,
Please
yes.
tell me that. Is that person still working with the county?
You know what, that person, you need to ask Mr. Sturdivant about. I don't know.
Yeah,
But that person is awesome, yes. And
Yeah.
yeah, that person is definitely a hero.
Yes.
Just one point, the rental property, is it in city or in unincorporated area?
It's in Richmond, the city of Richmond. Okay. Thank you all.
I just want to say one thing in closing. Reporter asked, is there a message? Yes. The investigation continues. If you are contemplating or will have any intentions of defrauding public resources and have any ill intentions in applying for public assistance during this time, you should understand that this investigation has been strengthened by the vast resources at the Sheriff's Department. And we will find it, just like we found this, and we will prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. Thank you.